All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at Ampinity Energy,
Okay.
which is an Indian company, and they're really trying to make a name for themselves in sustainable energy solutions.
Yeah.
And what we have here is pretty interesting. We have a mix of sources, so we have like technical specs, market reports, and even some of their own promotional materials.
Oh,
So we're going to be kind of like detectives today, kind of piecing things together.
sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the mission today is to see what they're offering, what they have.
Okay.
And you know how they might be changing things in India? Because India is facing some pretty big energy issues.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
And also, can they make a difference globally? Can they actually make a splash in the renewable energy market? So many questions.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, when we start to zoom out and look at the larger picture, that India is kind of at this crossroads with energy.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with issues like pollution from all the diesel generators.
Yeah.
And then grid instability, rising energy costs. And it just seems like this need for change is really, really urgent at this point.
Yeah, especially when you look at, like the sources that we have, it really highlights the problem of all these diesel generators everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
which are spewing out emissions. It's affecting people's health, the noise pollution.
Yeah.
And it seems like the government is really starting to take notice.
Absolutely. I mean, you see things like in Delhi where they're banning these diesel generators in certain areas.
Oh.
And there's this big push for energy storage solutions. And I think this is where Ampinity is really trying to capitalize on this wave of change,
Mm-hmm.
especially with have you seen this thing? It's called SolaSync. It's like this green power pack on wheels.
Oh, yeah.
It's a direct replacement for these big, clunky, noisy, polluting diesel generators.
Yeah. I was reading all about SolaSync. It looks really amazing.
Yeah.
I think they're onto something. They're targeting a huge market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to give you an idea, the diesel generator rental market in India right now, it's already massive.
Wow.
And it's projected to hit almost $192 million by 2027.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah.
And so if Ampinity can just get a fraction of that by making this SolaSync a go-to replacement, I mean, that's some serious disruption.
Yeah. So let's get into like the nitty-gritty now. What does Ampinity actually offer?
Okay.
Their core technology seems to be battery energy storage systems, or BSS for short.
Yes, exactly. And they've got a lot to offer in that space. We're not just talking about your average batteries here. We're talking systems with capacities that range from a relatively small 215 kilowatt hours all the way up to a massive 6.7 megawatt hours.
Wow, 6.7. That's
Yeah, to put that in perspective, that larger size could power a small town for a while.
That's wild. And I was looking at the specs, and they're modular too, so you can kind of adjust the size depending on what your needs are. That's pretty cool.
It is. And I think what's really key here is that they're focusing on making these systems smart. So they're designed to work really seamlessly with the power grid,
Okay.
doing things like smoothing out those peaks in demand and also making renewable energy sources, which can be a little bit unpredictable sometimes.
Right.
A lot more reliable.
So it's kind of like a giant battery backup for the whole system to make everything more efficient.
Exactly.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, and they don't stop at batteries. They also have these things called hydrogen electrolyzers.
Yeah. What are those?
So basically, it's a device that uses electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay.
And the hydrogen that they produce is ultra pure. So it's really valuable for all sorts of industries.
Wow.
And they actually highlight the model. It's the QLS M200.
Okay.
And this thing can produce 200 cubic meters of hydrogen per hour.
Oh, wow.
And I think this is really important because there's this huge push globally for hydrogen to become a major fuel source in the future.
Yeah, it's like they're thinking like 10 steps ahead. Exactly. And to top it off, they even offer EV chargers.
Oh, yeah.
Which is smart. Like the EV market is just booming right now.
It is. It is.
And they have a range from like 60 kilowatts all the way up to 240 kilowatts.
Wow.
Which is pretty fast charging.
Yeah, super fast.
So it's like they're really covering all their bases, but I keep coming back to the SolaSync. It's like the heart of their strategy, especially in India.
It seems like it, especially given everything that's happening there.
Yeah. So let's talk about SolaSync. I mean, it's a direct replacement for these diesel generators.
Yes.
It's portable. It's Clean, from what I've read, packed with cool tech features.
Yeah.
What makes it so special?
Well, I mean, they've really thought of everything with this one.
Okay.
They're using lithium iron phosphate and lithium titanate batteries, which are known for being really safe and for how long they last.
Right.
And they've also made it so these things can charge super fast, I mean.
Wow.
But what I think is really interesting is this dedicated app that they built that goes along with it.
Oh, yeah. I was really interested about this app because it's way more than just ordering your power pack.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's a full-on energy management system.
Okay.
So think about it. You can actually track your power use in real time. You can schedule when you need your power pack delivered, and you can even use their AI to predict your future energy needs. It's like having your own personal energy assistant right in your pocket.
That's so cool. And from what I read, it's not just for the customer, it's for their drivers too.
Yeah.
They have routing, traffic updates they can see.
Streamlines the whole delivery process.
Yeah, so they really thought of everything.
What's so fascinating to me is that they're not just providing energy, they're creating this whole system to make using sustainable power easy and accessible.
Yeah, it's like an entire package.
It is.
So we kind of got a taste now with what Ampinity is about.
Okay.
Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about the market.
Okay.
Because what's the landscape like? What are they trying to break into?
So from what we gathered, Ampinity is really focused on the Indian market, especially with SolaSync,
Right.
which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They have all these energy challenges we were talking about earlier. Plus, you have the government who is actually backing renewable energy and electric vehicles. It just feels like the perfect recipe for this market to change.
Right place, right time.
Exactly.
So how big is this market really?
So the Indian energy storage market, just to give you an idea, it's estimated to be worth a massive $6 billion.
6 billion.
$6 billion.
Wow.
And Ampinity is actually aiming to capture 10% of that market share by 2027.
Okay, so that's $600 million.
$600 million, yes.
That's a lot.
That is their target.
Okay, but it sounds like they're not limiting themselves to just India.
No.
Right. They have their eyes set on other places too.
Absolutely. They've mentioned the Middle East, Africa, and Europe
Oh.
as potential markets for growth. And each of those areas obviously has its own energy needs, its own challenges. But Ampinity has a pretty diverse set of offerings. So it seems like they could actually, tailor their solutions.
Yeah, they can adapt.
Adapt to those needs, exactly.
Okay, so it's ambitious.
Very ambitious.
But they're not the only ones doing this.
No, not at all.
What's the competition like?
So the renewable energy market, it's getting more and more crowded every single day.
Oh, I bet.
You've got these big established players who've been in the game for a while, and then you have tons of new startups popping up all the time.
So how does Ampinity stand out in this crowd?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
So they seem to be banking on a few things. First, their approach is super innovative, and it's modular.
Okay.
So their systems are flexible. You can scale them up, scale them down, depending on what you need. And I think that's a huge advantage for them.
Makes sense.
And the second thing is they're just laser focused on using cutting-edge technology to make sure that their solutions are as efficient and reliable as possible.
Right. And don't forget their sustainability. Like they really do emphasize customer support and the environment.
Absolutely. They're committed to it. It shows in how they structured their business.
Right.
It's not just about selling a product.
Yeah.
It's this combination of sales, project development, rentals with their SolaSync model.
Right.
And then these ongoing maintenance contracts. It's smart.
Yeah, very smart. It's like they're finding multiple ways to make sure that the revenue keeps coming.
Exactly.
So let's talk financials now, because that's the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
What are their projections? What are their investment plans?
Well, from the information we have, they're actually projecting some pretty strong financial performance, some really ambitious revenue and profitability targets.
Okay.
But to do that, they're going to need to scale their operations. And to scale their operations, they're going to need some serious investment.
That makes sense. I mean, any business needs money to grow, but especially this one.
Yeah, this is a pretty capital-intensive industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question is, how strong are they? Like, what's a good way to put this? What are their assets and what are their obstacles?
Okay, yeah. So let's put on our analyst hats and do a little SWOT analysis.
Okay, I love this.
So, strengths.
Okay.
SolaSync, that seems to be their golden goose.
Right.
It's eco-friendly. It's operationally efficient thanks to that snazzy app.
Yeah.
It's got broad market appeal, plus they're hitting all the right notes in terms of regulatory compliance, which is huge in this sector.
Yeah, SolaSync does seem like a real game changer.
Yeah.
But what about weaknesses? Like every company has them.
Of course. Of course.
What would theirs be?
So I think a big one is just market awareness
Okay.
because SolaSync is still fairly new. So,
Mhm.
you know, building that trust, convincing customers to ditch their old diesel generators, that might be a challenge.
And also the initial cost. I would think that would be a little bit
Yeah, absolutely.
a hurdle.
Yeah, switching to a new energy solution always comes with some upfront expenses.
And we also have to consider potential technical challenges
Yes.
because battery technology is constantly evolving, so they're going to have to really stay on top of
See
it,
the head of that curve, yeah.
make sure that they don't become obsolete.
For sure.
So they've got a lot of challenges there, but what are their opportunities? What are the things that are really working in their favor?
Well, I think a big one is this growing environmental consciousness
Mm.
among businesses and consumers.
Yeah.
People are actively looking for these sustainable alternatives,
Right.
and Ampinity is in a perfect position to actually provide those.
It seems like the government regulations are working in their favor too.
That's absolutely.
Like that push towards cleaner energy, it's only going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So that's going to really create a more, I guess, inviting environment for their solutions.
And then you can't forget about the forces of urbanization and development.
Right.
As India continues to grow, their demand for reliable and sustainable energy is just going to keep skyrocketing.
So they're in the right place at the right time with the right solution.
I think so.
Okay, so those are some really great opportunities.
Yeah.
But we also have to consider threats. Like, what are the things that could really hurt them?
Well, competition's in a big one. The renewable energy market, like we said before, it's getting crowded, so they're going to have to fight hard to maintain their edge.
Right.
And then there's always the potential for these technological disruptions.
Right.
You know, what if somebody comes up with a new, better battery technology that makes their stuff obsolete?
And what about regulatory hurdles? Like, what if policies change?
Yes. Policy changes or any unexpected barriers that could significantly impact their operations and their bottom line.
And we also can't forget just the overall market resistance.
Yeah.
Like convincing people to switch from something they're so used to.
It's hard to change.
Yeah, it's hard to change.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like Empinity's future really hinges on how they can navigate all these things.
I think so.
It's like walking a tightrope.
It is.
So we've talked a lot. We've talked about what they offer. We've talked about their market, their business model. We've even done a SWOT analysis.
We have.
But the big question is, will they actually pull it off?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah,
And honestly, I don't know if we can say for sure yet,
right.
but what we can say is that they've got a compelling vision, a strong team, and a set of really innovative solutions.
Yeah.
So they're definitely on the right track.
Yeah, and they're entering the market at this really critical time
Yeah.
when the world is really pushing for this clean energy transition.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
demand for this type of energy is just going to get more and more intense, and they seem ready, like they're ready to ride that wave.
I agree. Their success or, potential challenges, it's really going to shape the future of renewable energy, not just in India, but potentially globally.
Okay, so Empinity's vision, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about their offerings and especially SolaSync, which is
Yes.
kind of their flagship product.
Yes, it is.
So let's actually dive deeper into SolaSync.
Okay.
Because what are those details that make it so unique and potentially so disruptive?
Well, I think what's really interesting about SolaSync is how it could really disrupt the whole traditional diesel generator market.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that.
I mean, it's not just that it's cleaner. It's like a whole different way of thinking about how you use and deliver power.
Okay, so how is it disruptive then?
Well, for starters, it's portable.
Okay,
These SolaSync units, they're literally power packs on wheels.
I like that.
So you can just bring them wherever you need them. Like imagine a construction site, right?
Right.
Or a big event, or even just a neighborhood that's lost power.
Okay, yeah.
You just bring the SolaSync right there. You don't have to mess around with installing these big, clunky diesel generators.
So it's almost like having a fleet of mobile power stations
Exactly. You got it.
that you can just deploy wherever you need them.
That's the idea. And of course, there's the environmental aspect.
Right.
I mean, we all know that diesel generators are terrible for air quality.
Yeah.
SolaSync runs on clean energy, so it cuts down on those emissions significantly, which is better for everybody.
It makes you wonder why anyone would even still use a diesel generator.
I know, right?
And I bet it's way quieter.
Oh, yeah. Especially in residential areas, that noise reduction, it's huge.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, what's really impressive is how they've used technology in the whole thing.
Okay.
Like they have this app that gives you real-time tracking so you can see exactly where your power packs are.
Oh, wow.
And you can monitor how much energy you're using. You can schedule deliveries. And they even have this AI that can predict your future energy needs.
Okay, so that sounds like it takes a lot of the guesswork out of managing your energy.
It does, yeah.
And I bet for Ampinity, like, they're collecting so much valuable data.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Mhm.
this data allows them to optimize those delivery routes, see how demand fluctuates, even tailor energy solutions to different types of customers. I mean, it's a gold mine for them.
Yeah, they're really smart.
They are.
Okay, so we talked about the app, but like what kind of battery technology is powering these SolaSync units?
So they're primarily using lithium iron phosphate and lithium titanate batteries.
Okay.
And those are known for being safe and durable and having a really long lifespan.
And what about the power output? Can these things handle like different sizes of operations? Like, can it power a small business and can it power a massive industrial site?
Yeah, so they offer a range of power ratings from 100 kilowatts to 500
Oh,
kilowatts.
okay.
So they can handle pretty much anything.
Yeah, so whether you need to power a small shop or a huge construction site, there's a SolaSync that can do it.
Exactly. That's what they're going for.
That's really cool. That's a lot of versatility.
And they charge quickly, too.
Okay,
So
got it.
there's not a lot of downtime for the customer.
So one of the things that Ampinity really pushes is the environmental and regulatory benefits of SolaSync.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, we've already touched on how SolaSync drastically reduces emissions compared to those diesel generators.
Right.
And this is huge. I mean, globally, there's this push for sustainability, and India's government is cracking down on pollution.
Yeah, they're taking it seriously.
They are.
So it's really smart for businesses to get on board with this
Absolutely.
because then they can reduce their impact and they can stay on the right side of the law.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah, and in a market like India where the regulations are constantly evolving,
Mm-hmm.
this could be a major selling point for them.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the environmental benefits, we talked about the operational benefits, the tech specs,
Yep.
but what about the cost? How does SolaSync compare to a traditional diesel generator, like price-wise?
That is the question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Unfortunately, our sources don't give us any hard numbers,
Right.
but we can maybe look at the industry trends and the value proposition of SolaSync and make some educated guesses.
Okay, let's play detective then.
Let's do it. So my guess is that the upfront cost, the initial investment, is probably a little higher than a comparable diesel generator.
Okay, that makes sense.
But over the long term, I think the operational costs would be way lower.
Yeah, because you're not buying diesel all the time.
Exactly.
And also, from what I've read, they require less maintenance, so
Yeah, way less maintenance.
that's also going to save money down the line.
Absolutely. And you also have to consider that there's this potential for savings when it comes to staying compliant with those environmental regulations.
Right.
I mean, businesses that use diesel generators could end up paying some pretty hefty fines.
Yeah, especially as those regulations get tougher.
Right, but with SolaSync, that risk is gone.
So even if the upfront cost might be a bit higher, long term, you're saving money.
I think so. I think Ampinity is definitely banking on that.
Okay, so let's imagine that we're a business owner
Okay.
and we're trying to decide between SolaSync and a diesel generator.
Okay.
What are those key factors that would make us go, you know what, SolaSync is the way to go?
I would say the top 3 reasons would be 1, you want to be environmentally responsible. 2, you want a more efficient operation. And 3, you want to save money over the long haul.
Okay, so let's unpack those a little bit.
Okay.
Environmental responsibility, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Companies today, they're more aware than ever of their impact on the planet,
Mhm.
and they're looking for ways to show that they're serious about sustainability.
Yeah,
SolaSync is a pretty good way to do that.
it is.
And then the second point was the operational efficiency.
Yes.
And with the dedicated app, you have real-time tracking, scheduling, analytics.
Yeah.
It seems like it just makes things so much easier to manage.
Way easier than dealing with an old clunky diesel generator.
Right, exactly. And then the third point, long-term cost savings. I mean, we already talked about that, but even if the initial investment is higher, the fact that you're not paying for fuel,
Yeah.
you're having less maintenance,
Wow.
and you're not risking those regulatory fines, I mean, over time, it seems like you're saving a lot of money.
It does. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And also, we have to consider the brand image and marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Ampinity is really, they're pushing SolaSync as this modern, innovative solution.
Mm-hmm.
And companies, they want to be seen as leaders in sustainability and tech.
Of course.
So SolaSync kind of checks all those boxes.
I think so. I think they're doing a really good job of making it clear that this is something that not only solves those practical problems, but it can actually elevate the brand
Right.
and the reputation of the company.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the good things, But let's be realistic. There are some challenges they're going to face.
Yes, of course.
To make SolaSync more mainstream, what would those be?
Well, like we said earlier, I think one of the biggest ones is just making people aware that it even exists.
Okay.
SolaSync is still new, so they're going to have to do a lot of educating.
Yeah, a lot of marketing.
Yeah, about the benefits and convince people to ditch their old diesel generators.
And they're also going to have to change that perception that, green solutions are always more expensive.
Yes, that's a big one.
And they're going to have to really hammer home those long-term cost savings.
Absolutely.
Maybe even offer different financing options.
Yeah, make it easy to switch.
Right, exactly.
And then another big one is charging infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
These units need to be charged regularly, so they need access to a reliable charging network.
So that means Ampinity is going to have to invest in that.
Yeah.
Especially in areas where it's lacking.
Exactly. And it needs to be fast and easy for the customer. They don't want to be waiting around.
Right. Time is money.
That's right. And we also have to think about the technical complexity. That app is amazing, but it might be intimidating for some customers.
Right. Not everyone's a tech expert.
No, they're not. And so they're going to have to make sure that that app is really user-friendly.
Intuitive.
Yes. And their customer support, that's going to be key.
Yeah, because if there's any kind of technical problem, they need to be able to solve it quickly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so those are some of the hurdles, but where does Ampinity see the biggest opportunities for growth with SolaSync?
Well, based on what we've gathered, they're looking at a few key sectors. Construction, events, IT, and telecom, hospitality, and even residential areas.
Okay, let's break those down.
Okay.
Construction, that makes sense, because you need temporary power and you need it quickly.
That's right. And it has to be portable.
Yeah, so SolaSync, it's perfect for that.
It is. And then large events, they need a lot of power. Think about all the lighting and sound systems, food vendors, charging stations.
Yeah, they need to keep the party going.
Exactly. And SolaSync can do that cleanly and efficiently.
And what about IT and telecom?
Oh, that's a big one too.
Okay.
Because they need that uninterrupted power for all those data centers and networks.
Yeah.
And SolaSync can provide that backup that's reliable and eco-friendly.
So it's like peace of mind for those businesses.
Yeah. And then you have hospitality. I mean, their whole business is about providing a good customer experience.
Right.
So SolaSync can make sure that there's no interruptions, that the guests are comfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what I think is interesting is residential areas are even becoming a potential market, with all these smart homes.
Right, and energy-efficient appliances.
Yeah, people are becoming more conscious about where their energy is coming from.
Yeah, and they want to be more independent from the traditional power grid.
And SolaSync can give them that option.
So it's really cool how SolaSync can be applied in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile.
But let's go back to something you said earlier, this idea of disruption. How is SolaSync actually changing the energy market?
Well, I think it's a game changer in a few ways.
Okay.
First, it's a direct challenge to those diesel generators.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a cleaner, more efficient, more technologically advanced option.
It's David versus Goliath, except David has a solar-powered slingshot.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
second, it's shaking up that old rental model.
Okay.
With that app and the real-time tracking.
And bringing it into the 21st century.
It is. And third, it's helping to pave the way for a more decentralized and sustainable energy future.
Right, because it's more mobile and it's cleaner.
Yeah, so businesses and communities, they can become more self-sufficient.
So it's a step towards a future where energy is more readily available.
That's the goal, I think.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not just a product. It's like a symbol of a whole new way of thinking about energy.
Okay, so we've explored the potential for disruption, but let's talk about their growth strategy.
Okay.
They've got this amazing product, SolaSync.
Yeah.
But how do they plan to really scale up and become a major player in the renewable energy market?
Well, they've got a pretty multifaceted strategy.
Okay.
First, they're really focusing on establishing a strong presence in India.
Right.
They see that as the biggest market for SolaSync.
And they're actively seeking investments to really make that happen.
Absolutely. They know they need a lot of funding to ramp up manufacturing, marketing, distribution.
They're going to have to expand their team, build partnerships.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're not just looking at India. They want to expand to other regions as well, right?
Yes. The Middle East, Africa, Europe, they've mentioned all of those as potential markets.
Wow.
But those regions, I mean, they have their own opportunities and challenges.
Right.
So they're going to have to do their homework.
Yeah, they're going to have to be smart about it.
Absolutely.
But I think with the solutions that they have, their innovative approach, and their commitment to sustainability, they really are in a good position to succeed.
I think so, too.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We talked about Ampinity's overall vision and market strategy, and we really dug deep into SolaSync.
Yes,
It's been a fascinating look at their approach to sustainable power.
it has.
It really makes you think, like, is this the future of energy? Like, are we really going to see those diesel generators disappear?
Well, it's a big question, isn't it? Can Ampinity actually pull it off? Because it's not easy.
Right.
I mean, they're up against some pretty stiff competition. Not just the big energy companies, but
Right.
all these new green tech startups that are popping up everywhere.
Yeah, so they really have their work cut out for them. I mean, they're going to have to prove that they can grow, that they can navigate those regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most importantly, convince those customers that their solution is good for the planet, but also good for business.
Yeah, it's a tough sell sometimes.
Yeah. But you know what really impressed me was their strategic approach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like throwing technology at a problem.
Right.
It seems like they really understand the market in India.
They're-
Like, they get it.
Yeah, they've done their research.
Yeah, and that focus on the diesel generator rental market, that's smart
It is.
because they're finding a problem and they're offering a solution.
Yeah, they're not just saying, oh, we have this cool technology. They're saying, here's how it can actually help you.
Right, and they're not stopping there. They're building this whole ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
with the app, the tracking, the customer support, the partnerships. It's like they're really thinking about the whole experience.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach, for sure.
Yeah, so it's really impressive, but the question is, will it be enough?
Yeah, that's always the question.
To win over those customers, what do you think?
Well, I think Ampinity is really banking on some key trends that are happening right now in the energy world.
Okay,
One of them is this rising environmental consciousness.
right.
People actually care about the planet now, and they want cleaner solutions. And businesses are starting to realize that this is important to their customers.
Yeah, it's not just about the bottom line anymore.
Exactly. And Ampinity is in a really good position because their whole philosophy is about sustainability.
Yeah.
It's like built into their DNA.
Yeah. And the second trend is that renewable energy is becoming more affordable.
Yes, definitely. I mean, solar panels, batteries, the prices are dropping, the efficiency is going up.
So it's making things like SolaSync more and more realistic.
Exactly. And then you have the increasing desire for energy independence.
Yes, especially in developing countries.
So,
They want to control their own energy. They don't want to rely on these big power grids or fossil fuels.
and this is so important in a place like India, where power outages are a big problem.
Right.
So SolaSync offers that reliability and flexibility.
So those are some big trends working in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the little things? What are some of those small hurdles that they're going to have to overcome?
Well, like we said earlier, the initial cost is a big one.
Right.
Even though the price of renewable energy is coming down, it's still a big investment.
Yeah.
And for some businesses, that's a lot to ask up front.
So maybe they need to think about different financing options like leasing,
Yeah, or partnering with banks.
make it easier for those businesses.
Exactly, make it more accessible.
And another challenge is the skilled labor,
Oh, yeah.
because you need people who know how to install and maintain these systems.
Right, it's specialized work.
So maybe they need to invest in some training programs, partner with some schools, create some jobs.
It could be a good solution for them.
Yeah, and then there's always the regulations.
Yes, the paperwork.
The renewable energy sector is heavily regulated.
It is.
So they're going to have to make sure they're dotting all their I's and crossing their...
Have to, yeah.
Building those relationships with government agencies, staying informed, and maybe even pushing for policies that will help them grow.
It's a lot, but I think they're capable of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're operating in this huge market with so much potential.
They are. It's really exciting to see.
They're riding this wave of energy transformation, and what they do is really going to impact the world, not just India.
It is. It's bigger than them.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ampinity Energy, we just want to leave you with some questions to think about.
Okay, I like that.
How is the emergence of companies like this going to change the global energy landscape? What role will innovation and these entrepreneurs play in moving us towards a cleaner, more sustainable future?
Those are big questions.
Yeah, and maybe most importantly, how can we as individuals and communities contribute to this change? These aren't just theoretical questions. These are things that are going to affect us all.
Yeah.
So keep exploring these ideas, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Ampinity Energy.